Attention please. This upload is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. GPITRAL. Definitely a must-see. Follow us.
The family home, traditionally a place of refuge at the end of a long working day. But when the home of your dreams turns into a house of horrors, when spirits move in and try to move you out, it's time then to call on medium Johnny Fiore and specialist house cleanser Ian Lawman, the team from Living with the Dead.
You just get that feeling that there's somebody watching you.
Somebody died next door.
I don't know why it makes me want to cry right now.
Sit right next to hold her hand. Michael, I ask you to leave this body now.
Ghostly images, a spectre with white eyes, an old gravestone, a hand reaching out, Living with the Dead with ITFC audio description, a road sign announcing the name of a small village on a rain-soaked road.
Drivach, a small picturesque village nestling in the heart of the Welsh countryside. A haven of peace and tranquility. When Brian and Irene Block were searching for their dream home 3 years ago, one house in particular drew their attention.
This one came up on the web and I just saw it. And I said to Irene, that's a nice looking house.
He said, we've got to go and see that house. So we came. Pulled up outside the gates and the wow factor hit us.
A pretty Victorian villa. They immediately felt they had to have it. But it wasn't until Irene had her first look around that she realised just how special this house might be.
Well, we came in, we got to the top of the stairs, opened the door, and as I stood in the doorway, I saw this figure in Edwardian dress looking out the window.
A recreation.
It only lasted a few seconds and she just vanished, disappeared.
Was this a vision from the past? As she discussed what had happened later with Brian, they both put it down to Irene's imagination and agreed to press on with buying the house. But then, on the day of completion, the previous owner handed Irene something which gave her a chill.
She said, this is a photograph of the family that used to live in the house. And straight away I recognised the figure in Edwardian dress at the window. She said, the photograph would be nice to say, it should stay in the house, it belongs to the house.
Irene kept the photograph, but put the incident to the back of her mind. Then, after moving in, they started to notice things going on around the house. Events for which they could find no explanation.
My daughter-in-law had done some shopping for me one day and she brought all the change back and just threw it on top of the fridge.
The change lay there undisturbed as they went to bed. But then, that night, Irene heard strange activity coming from the kitchen and the sound of coins being moved.
When I come down the following morning, every copper coin was, the tuppences were on the bottom because they were the biggest and the heads were facing upwards. And then you had another column of silver and they were so exact. And I tried to do it myself and you need a very, very steady hand. I was totally surprised. I wasn't worried about it, but I was totally surprised.
Although confused by these events, neither Brian nor Irene felt in any way threatened. Until one night when Irene sensed a darker presence enter the house.
I was laying in bed one night. I'd just gone up to bed, so I was laying there. And from above the door, going across the ceiling, something scooted across the ceiling and it made a kind of scurrying noise and it was a black shape. And I just got the worst feeling ever about it. It was frightening.
Then, just 2 months later, Brian saw what he believes was the same phenomenon.
It was just like a scurrying sound. It came from above my head. I immediately looked up and just caught a glimpse of this grey thing disappearing through the corner of the ceiling up there.
And since these incidents, both Irene and Brian have started to get the strong feeling that something is lurking around the house.
You just get that feeling that there's somebody watching you.
Coming up, Irene discovers the family history that may explain what's going on in the house. And living with the dead medium, Johnny Fiore, arrives to see what she can sense in the house.
I don't know why it makes me want to cry right now.
Johnny clasps her hands together. The Victorian house.
Irene and Brian Block are convinced that they're sharing their Welsh country home with spirits of the dead. A series of unexplained events and now more frequent incidents are starting to affect both of them.
You just get that feeling that there's somebody watching you.
I get paranormal experiences in this house all the time.
Footsteps going across the ceiling. A door will open and close. Sound will come from the stairs.
And now other members of the family are also starting to experience things going on.
One day we were sitting in the front room in the evening watching telly, and suddenly the phone turned itself on speakerphone and started dialing out.
A phone dials itself.
It was a bit freaky. And then we went to bed, and as soon as we went to bed I felt something tugging at my hair, and I said, "Sasha, stop pulling my hair." She says, "Not me, Mum," but something was pulling my hair.
All these events now prompted Irene to return to the photograph which had been handed down to her by the family who first lived in the house. Who were these people? What was their story? Could they now be haunting the house they used to own?
I discovered that the photograph was of Herbert Morgan, the man that built the house for his wife, Annie. Annie was born in 1884. She contacted TB and died in 1922. The daughter, the child in the photograph, is Myra. She was 8 years old when her mother died.
Investigating further, Irene discovered that in his grief, Herbert had looked to Annie's sister Gladys to raise Myra.
In them days it was scorned on to live with somebody, and he needed a mother for Myra, so he married her. But his true love, I think, was Annie.
Irene is convinced that it's the lingering spirit of this family that is behind much of what's going on. A theory supported by one stormy night when Irene and her elderly mother were alone in the house.
The lights went out. So I decided to go and get candles. Mum said, "Don't leave me here, I've got to come with you." So she's shuffling along behind, holding onto my hips, and we're working our way through the house in the dark.
The plan was to get candles from the cupboard under the stairs.
That catch under that cupboard used to get stuck, and you couldn't open the door. I was pulling and pulling and pulling it, and Mum was getting a bit agitated. You know, she was frightened she was going to fall over. And I turned around and I said, "Mum, it's no good, I can't get the cupboard door open." After about 5 minutes of trying to pull it and fiddling with it and one thing and another, it just wouldn't open. And as soon as I stood up, let go of the cupboard, stood up, and was just about to give up, the cupboard door swung open.
The door swings open.
We were saved, and I put that down to one of my friends helping us at that time when we needed help.
Both Irene and Brian have found the presence of the family to be reassuring and positive. But more recently, the atmosphere in the house has changed.
The feeling that I got from the spirits in here, in this house, was absolutely beautiful until about a year ago, when something scooted across the ceiling. That really frightened me.
A black object floats by.
It just had this really bad feeling about it, and I couldn't find out what it was. I didn't know what it was.
This darker presence has now unsettled everyone. What was once a warm and friendly house now feels unwelcoming and hostile. And it is this that has prompted the family to call in the Living with the Dead team. Medium Johnny Fiore comes from a long line of sensitives and has been helping families with spirit problems for 12 years. But first to arrive is house cleanser Ian Lawman. He hopes to banish the negative entity the family feel has taken over their property.
Ian arrives.
He gathers the family in the dining room, Irene's sister Marie and her nieces Tasha and Annette. Brian explains what they've all felt in the house.
There's been a great feeling in this house. There's a warmth to this house. There's only been one real negative thing that we didn't like, which was something that ran across the ceiling, scurried.
We don't really know what it is.
Can you describe it, or...?
The only thing I could describe it as that I saw was like a grey creature that goes across, and that's what stuck in my mind.
Makes a scurrying noise,
It's that sort of noise.
I saw it first up in one of the bedrooms, and it was a couple of months later that you saw it, because we tried to find out what it was.
Yeah, I was in the lounge, and
you saw it in the lounge.
Yeah.
The family are all determined that the bad spirit they felt in the property must now be removed, but are also keen not to disturb what they feel are the friendlier spirits of the Morgan family. As Ian prepares for the séance, medium Johnny Fiore arrives. She wants to see if she can feel the spirit activity for herself and find out more about the story behind what has happened in the house. She asks Irene to show her around. She's not been told the history of what has gone on, but almost immediately she begins to pick up on something.
What are you feeling?
I feel like I want to, with my arms like this, I feel like I just want to fall forward.
Fat Johnny stares ahead. She has thick black hair.
As they enter the lounge, the sensation continues. This is the room where Brian has often felt the presence of the darker spirit.
Now I'm getting another.
In green night vision, Johnny looks up at the ceiling. Blonde Irene looks perturbed.
I'll let Ian deal with this room. He'll tell us what's happening in here, because I don't feel steady in here either.
Johnny asks to be taken upstairs to the room where Irene has felt the most activity. And she suddenly becomes aware of strong feelings in the room.
Irene, sorry, I don't know why I want to do this. I want to do this.
Johnny gets down on her knees.
The family that lived here were very religious.
But this is praying for a life. This is prayer for, this is so sad.
I don't know why it makes me want to cry right now.
Johnny sobs.
It just makes me want to cry. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. I feel sad, but it feels like the weight is lifted. It's okay. I'm crying for the earthly part because the spirit is free. Nothing like that's ever happened where I've just come in and just, I don't know.
You're right.
Yeah.
Johnny seems to have felt the emotional energy of a family in mourning.
Oh.
Could this be the Morgans grieving over the death of Mother Annie?
I feel sad now because you're sad. You're right about there was someone that passed in this room, and I should imagine that they did pray for this person before they passed, and I should imagine they got very, very upset when this person passed. Can you get anything on this person?
Johnny sits on the double bed, which has a brass frame, and closes her eyes.
She's sitting up in bed and she's trying to comfort everybody around her. And she's so scared. But she's telling everybody it's gonna be okay. This person is taking care of everybody else.
I think you could be right there.
This room was the heart of the home.
This
room was the heart of the home. And they would bring everyone in here, and it was not unusual to say the prayers together. It wasn't unusual. It was loving. It was togetherness. It was family.